Why do you feel it's up to you? Despair is a feeling that I can't do anything. Right? So why do you think there was anything you could do in the first place? What happens outside of your realm is none of your business. If you follow that small bit of advice, it'll all just pass over your head. Most of us are in a very fortunate situation. We really, at least the ones that are here in this room, we have a roof over our heads. We've eaten a meal today. You have no idea what despair looks like. I thought I would do a book on domestic abuse at one point. And I asked this person that I knew. And she said, yeah, I don't mind giving you an interview. And then she started talking. From the age of 8 to 12, her father abused her. Then he abused her brother, and she had to watch it. And her mother would not help her. At 12, when she ran away, she was kidnapped and incarcerated, put into a room, and raped continually for a week. She escaped from that. She was 13 years old. She went to Miami, she got caught, taken to New Orleans, put into a prostitution ring. I mean, when she was talking, and I'm talking about 3 things she told me. She told me a lot more. But from all the law and order that I saw, I could not imagine one person, having to experience so much abuse, so much suffering. And the funny thing is, she did not despair. She kept believing that a door was going to open. And it is that belief that brought her out of, literally the drug abuse and everything made her psychotic. She was on antipsychotic drugs, and it's only the medication that's keeping her stable, but she managed to learn a few skills, and then she kept marrying. She married 3 or 4 times. And the same kind of man that abused her and beat her and put her in the hospital. After I heard her story, I said, I can't write this. I can't write this. This is just too much pain to take for one person. Can't imagine she's on her own 2 feet, that she's now earning a livelihood and has married a very nice boy and living well. She's in her 60s now. See, if you despair, then you are actually giving up. You're saying that this is it. There is no more hope. But you have to believe. You have to believe that always something better is happening. You would imagine, just by reading the newspaper and watching the news and listening to the stories around you, that only bad things happen. Right? But the fault is not in what's happening, the fault is in you. You are only looking at the things that are bad. Because it reinforces that idea in your head that life is not good, life sucks. We got a bad deal. things are not going our way, we'll never get out of this. You want to hear that story, so you listen to those news items, you listen to that story, because it reinforces something within you. The world just is. If you bring everything into the moment, nothing matters. Why do you feel a sense of despair? Because you've already leapt 100 yards into the future. You're thinking that there's no future for us. Is there a future for anybody? At any point could an asteroid hit us? Or could we discover that we're bacteria in the nostril of a giant? Right? Making such a big deal of everything. Yes, there's a lot of stuff happening. But what I'm trying to tell you is that someone who has such desperate stuff happening to her still did not despair. I'm sure there were moments that she did, but she was able to believe that it's going to get okay, it's going to get okay, it's going to get okay. And by her very thoughts, created situations in her life that pulled her out of it. Half the world is in the depths of despair. And not all of them have a right to be despairing. They have no right to be despairing. They have no right to take their own lives. Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, people who have everything. How dare they think they can take their own lives? You know what happens when you commit suicide, when you despair and you commit suicide? You are born into the very same situation that you tried to escape. You cannot escape this life. It's like if you just try it out, the last thought before you sleep will always be the first thought when you wake up in the morning. That's why I keep saying, read something uplifting. Go to sleep with that feeling that all is well with the world. Everything is fine. Don't watch the news. Don't look at CNN, whatever notifications on your phone. Don't look at WhatsApp videos, shocking WhatsApp videos. Last thing before you sleep, you listen to an inspirational, a spiritual video. And I've got 200 that you can pick from. Listen to 5 minutes of it, and you'll go to sleep as the video ends with a feeling that all is well with the world. And that's how you wake up. Similarly, when you die, the last thoughts are the first ones on that become your first karmic impressions. You cannot escape your situation. You will repeatedly be born into the same situation till you learn to face it. Till you learn to face it with courage, faith, and gratitude. That's what you have to do. Not with despair. There is always another choice. You are fortunate. You have lived many lives to come into this place where you have choices. Consider those that don't have a choice. And focus your energy on helping those that don't have a choice. Making their lives slightly better. Making them believe that anything can happen at any point of time. And honestly, bad things need to happen for change to take place. You saw the video that I posted a couple of weeks back, From Anguish Comes Real Change. Bad things need to happen. For Malala to become such a huge star, she had to be shot in the head. Imagine that. A small girl living in some obscure place in Pakistan needed to get shot in the head for instant rise to fame and instant power. When bad things happen, there is a social revolution that takes place. It happens. It happens. And as long as you say, I don't believe it, it won't happen. At least not in your world. But I can tell you, yours is not the only world. You see the world through your senses, through your experiences, and the resultant emotions, attitudes that you feel are yours and yours alone. I live in the same town as you do. I do not mirror your despair. I listen to the same news. I process it differently from you. She processes it differently from her. We all have our little bubbles of reality, which we believe is true. And here's the wake-up call. None of it is true. They're all stories. They're all stories. Every one of these things are stories. None of it is true. Have you ever thought of that? That one day you're going to wake up and none of this exists. They're all stories in your head. Pictures that you see. That fear that you have is just a story in your head. That emptiness you feel is just a feeling your mind created because it helps the mind to control you. You are listening to the wrong stories. Here's a nice story. Life is perfect the way it is. You have everything that you need to discover your purpose in life. What you have now is better than anything you'll ever have ever again, or anything you ever had before, because it is here. It is the only reality. This is the only thing that's real. And if you allow this moment to seep into you and exist moment to moment, what is the cause for despair? So someone is the president, someone is a CEO, someone is a prostitute, someone is a garbage worker, someone is a something else. So what? How does that affect you in any way? Whatever stories you pay attention to, they grow and they grow and they manifest, and your entire vision of the world gets distorted. Be with that feeling that all is exactly as it's supposed to be. This is how it was meant to be. And certainly, if you can do something concrete, action in the moment is better than a comment or an opinion. A comment or an opinion doesn't change anything. It creates more stories, bigger stories in your head. It's of no value to anyone. Most often, when I go into a room where there's discussions taking place, I tend to back off after a bit because everyone seems to have a better opinion or a better story than I do. Story toppers, right? We're all story toppers. You've got dialysis. Oh, I have dialysis and something else, and MS. It's never good enough. Whatever you do or say is never good enough. And if you talk politics and if you talk religion or spirituality, everyone is topping what you have to say or putting you down, or there's an opinion, there's a comment, none of which has any value. For many times it becomes like a hum for me, and many of my friends have commented that I've become extremely silent. That I don't say anything, especially at parties, unless I find someone who's on that wavelength and we're talking the same language. Because it's much better to understand that these are just a bunch of stories, wasteful talk. Anyway, there's enough talk in my head. Why do I have to listen to this outside talk? Don't listen to the stories in your head. They are false. They are misguiding you. They are leading you to a place that is dark, that there is no escape from, and that leads only to despair. Don't even get into that maze. That's for blind rats. 3 blind mice. And you know what happened to them with the carving knife, right? Maybe they were talking about this very thing that I'm talking about when they made up that nursery rhyme. Stay away from things you can do nothing about, because no one cares about your opinion. Most of all, forget about others. You saying, though, giving vibration to such negativity, to such downward thoughts, is bad for you. You have to keep your energy positive and upbeat no matter what. So despair is not even a word in my dictionary. Not anymore. I have been down that road many times. And I know most of the world, if you look at all this opioid addiction that's engulfing our country, and if you look at all the stories that come out of Africa and the East and the Middle East, there is despair everywhere. There is enough misery going around. You become the bubble of cheer. You become the one that is uplifting others. You, by the quality of your words and the quality of your thoughts, give people the opportunity to rise above this. We don't need this. Whatever is happening in the world, when you slip into the moment, when you listen to the voice of your favorite whatever video or thing, there is that wonderful feeling that everything is fine. Just the way it is. This moment is perfect. It's exactly as it should be. And the more you do, the more you create that positive energy, the less you go down the roads of despair and hopelessness and misery. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want to be happy? Happiness is your birthright.